and politics. 2 decades of tackling critical issues in business, politics, and the community. Welcome to today's event, produced with our partner, WDIV Local 4 and Local 4 Plus. Today's forum features Women Who Lead. We'll hear from Rachel Stewart, the president and CEO of Gardner White and GW Home. Carla Walker Miller, the founder and CEO of Walker Miller Energy Services. And Brittany Lavis, the group CEO for the Detroit Medical Center. Our moderator today is Dennis Archer Jr., chairman and CEO of 1642 Ventures. Today's conversation is brought to you by PNC Bank, Walker Miller Energy Services, DTE Energy, Rocket Companies, Delta Dental, and Business Leaders for Michigan. Now here's Kathy Ned, president of Real Times Media News Group, to get the show started.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming today. Welcome to the fourth and final forum of the Michigan Chronicle, Pancakes and Politics. Okay. I won't get to come up here and say this to you anymore. I'm going to miss it. But thank you for coming. From some of the region's most powerful leaders and CEOs to mayors from across the nation, we hope you enjoyed this season of discussions. But we saved the best for last. Today's topic, who runs the world? Oh, did I say that? I'm sorry. Today's topic, women who lead. This year, we recognize our 20th year of Pancakes and Politics, and it could not have been possible without the support of our sponsors and our lead sponsor, PNC Bank. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Mr. Michael Bickers, Regional President for Detroit and Southeast Michigan.
Morning. Oh man, the final session. These go by fast, don't they? So we have been involved in, when I say we, PNC, it's been for a lot of us in the room, a stretch of activities. It's so exciting. So Mackinac Policy Conference, and then we roll right into the Detroit Grand Prix. 2 nights ago, I was fortunate enough we're also the presenting sponsor for Ernst & Young's, I don't know if you know that, Ernst & Young's Entrepreneur of the Year Award. 11 fantastic winners. And they'll go on, I believe, James, to Palm Springs. I don't get to go to that. The people in Pittsburgh that I have to kiss up to, they go to that. But that's all right, just fabulous. And so today we get to celebrate and listen to fabulous ladies come up and talk about their journey as well. And it's just, I would just want to thank Hiram from all of us at PNC. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes in the events that I just mentioned. So if you don't mind, because it's really not about me, I just get to talk. This is the best job ever. I just get up here, they say a script, they give me that, I don't pay attention to it, Rob gets mad at me, whatever. I got my own jokes, whatever. So if you're with PNC, can you stand up, please? I think we're all over the place. PNC Bank, if you can stand. Thank you to the team. They are responsible for executing everything I just mentioned, because I will tell you, if we don't execute, then we can't sponsor anything, because results matter. And I'm so proud of them for what they do every day and the passion they bring to the job. It's a pleasure for me and an honor for me to work with them, as it is to work with all of you. So thank you on behalf of PNC. Thank you.
Good morning. It's like 90% women in here. Good morning. I just want to remind you guys that it's being streamed live. So if you're supposed to be at work or someplace else, it's a good time to slide out the back door. Thank you for coming. Kathy made it seem like our last ever, didn't she? We're coming back. And I just want to remind you, I just want to remind everyone that we continue throughout the year with our Pancakes and Politics overdrives. Thanks to business leaders from Michigan, you'll be able to watch us online, and we will have some smaller iterations of Pancakes and Politics to the end of the year. Again, thanks to business leaders from Michigan, we continue those through the end of the year and then ramp right back up for our 21st season. I really want to thank Kathy Ned. Please give her a round of applause. She's been outstanding. She's been with us for all 20 years. Lord have mercy. It's been a ride, but thank you, Kathy. I also want to thank Lakeisha Burns, my executive assistant, who has worked all year at securing the panelists. She's done an excellent job. I don't know if she's here. Please give her a round of applause. And all of the Michigan Chronicle staff and the parent company, Real Times Media, we do about 60 events a year around the country, many similar to this in about 15 cities. So they're ripping and running every week. So please give them a round of applause. I always say that companies, when they develop their budgets are about priorities. And if you're lucky enough to have a roster of companies support your events, it's meaningful. It's meaningful to us because we're in your budget. You think highly enough of us to support us financially. And so when you see companies on the slide or on the posters, they are vested. Then this is an investment that most of the companies in this room have been making for 20 years. And I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Especially our top sponsors. PNC has been with us for at least 13 of those years. DTE, Walker Miller Energy Services, Delta Dental, and Rocket. So please thank them for a round of applause. And I really want to thank the WDIV staff. Appropriately enough, they have Rhonda Walker here today for the women's panel and not Jason. Rhonda, where are you? There she is. Rhonda's going to be joining us throughout the morning and hosting our overdrive this morning. But I really want to thank DIV because they really helped us step up to production. These are done, they're live streamed. You can watch them whenever you want. And we've been getting a tremendous response online. And I just really want to thank the DIV staff, and I want to have their general manager, Bob Ellis, come say a few words.
Thank you, Hiram. I think back to a couple of years ago when Hiram and I first started to talk about getting Channel 4 involved in Pancakes and Politics. And I remember, if you've heard me talk on this, I remember distinctly how much I appreciated the fact that this amazing 20-year brand and concept that he had built, that he wanted to involve us. And so in these 2 years we've been together, it has exceeded all of our expectations. It's been a wonderful, wonderful thing to be a part of. Our staff, our people have embraced this beyond what I even expected. And I think the reason we got involved is because the work that the Michigan Chronicle does and the information that's shared on these special mornings, we're able to hopefully provide a bigger audience so more people get to see and hear and feel the great work that Hiram and his team do. And so on behalf of everyone at Channel 4, we just appreciate you. You've become a great friend. And I just appreciate the ability to be a participant with our group on these special mornings. And I thank you for that very much. And we too will be back next year. So thank you.
We've done some great work this year. I don't know if any of you saw the musical Ruby. WDIV helped us promote that, our Power 50, our Women of Excellence. So it's been a great year so far. We're keeping you busy, you and your team busy, Bob. We're going to have a Delta Dental video, and then afterwards, my partner in crime and our moderator for the last 7 or 8 years, Dennis Archer Jr., chairman of 1642 Ventures. I get that right? That's a challenge, because I'll hear about it if I don't say it right. But Dennis will come up and we host this great panel. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy this panel this morning.
Solutions. For years, I've been telling audiences like you that we have a problem. More than 14% of Americans identify as Black, and yet less than 4% of American dentists are Black. Delta Dental and the Delta Dental Foundation are investing heavily in solutions like scholarships and loan repayment programs to inspire minority dentists like Kimani and Jelani Holiday to join us in expanding access to oral health care. Here's their story.
I received my Bachelor of Science degree from Oakwood University, a historical Black college in North Alabama. And that college was where I was first exposed to dental schools. I was thankful enough to get a scholarship from the University of Michigan. And I had professors at the University of Michigan who knew about my passion to go into public health.
I ended up going to school majoring in biology at Georgia Southern University. And I did 4 years there for my undergrad. And then I continued at the University of Detroit Mercy School of Dentistry.
Representation in dentistry is important because we see a wide array of patients. And as a healthcare provider, it's important that we represent that diversity.
I believe that Delta Dental and the Delta Dental Foundation have done an outstanding job with making sure that we have a lot of diversity in dentistry.
I think to support a more diverse dental workforce, Delta Dental can do what they're already doing. They'll highlight the diversity and give scholarships and help contribute to that by motivating and encouraging minorities.
The advice that I would have for a young person of color pursuing a career in dentistry is don't give up, believe in yourself, and when you get there, know that you do belong there and you're very important.
Good morning. Welcome to our fourth installment of Pancakes and Politics, Women That Lead. And I'm glad that I think it was either Hiram or Kathy brought up Rhonda being here. Rhonda, welcome. I got a text coming down here this morning saying that Rhonda Walker was going to be the co-host and not Jason. And Rhonda and I have known each other since 9th grade. But Rhonda, I'm not going to share those stories from back in the day. But good morning. I want to jump right into the conversation because I think it's going to be an amazing one. I will tell you, for those of you who want to participate at home, periodically on your TV screen will be a QR code that you can click with your camera phone and send questions right here to the room. And for those of you in the room, on the back of your ticket is a QR code, and you can text questions, which we will then answer. And predominantly, those will be the questions that Rhonda will offer to the panelists. I want to bring them up with no further ado. Brittany Lavis is the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Detroit Medical Center. Welcome. And Brittany, you came to Detroit from Southern California, so we're going to dig into how we got you to come here from Southern California in a second. Carla Walker Miller, founder and CEO of Walker Miller Energy Services. And my friend Rachel Stewart, president and CEO of Gardner White. Good morning to all of you. Lots of questions. I'm sure Rhonda has lots of questions, but I will start with that because when reading your bio, and we spent some time together talking politics a little bit. Oh, speaking of politics, are there any elected officials in the room? We always have you stand. That good. That means we're getting our money's worth. They're working. Oh, Angela, you can stand up, Angela. It's all right. We have the city council president from Warren here. Angela, good morning. And is there anybody here running for office in the room? Candidate. Sontil Jenkins, good morning.
Dennis.
Good morning. In the back of the room also. Thank you. So
There was someone over there.
oh, hey, girl. Good morning. You moved here from Southern California. And your path before that is even more interesting. And you and Carla have a lot in common in terms of clean energy and the environment. But what was the attraction? What got you to say yes to come to Detroit?
It's a great question. So I had the opportunity to come to Detroit in 2014 to visit. I've been with Tenet, the parent company of the Detroit Medical Center, for 15 years. And I came in 2014 and I thought the Detroit Medical Center specifically was the most intriguing place. And at the time I was a controller for a community hospital. And so I always kind of had this on my path of the place that I would want to be. But, you know, fast forward 4 or 5 years after that, and I had the opportunity for a position here. And I looked at how much the city had changed just in that short period of time, and came for a visit. And I think what was most compelling for me and for my husband at the time, well, he's still my husband. He is still my husband. But at the time for us was just how friendly everyone is. We grew up in the South and then went to California, and, you know, tale of two different places. And we felt like Michigan was kind of a nice balance of everything we had experienced so far in life. And so those two things were really what led us here.
Rachel, you moved around, you went to school overseas, but it's interesting, you are in a multi-generational business, and you did not jump immediately into that business, which I hear from those that have multiple generations that they, you know, there's a couple school of thought. Some kids can jump right in and they stay in. I think Carla has some children in her business now. But you chose to go away and come back. Talk about,
I was the first boomerang.
Yeah, so talk about the decision to join the family business and the dynamic that exists when you're working in a multi-generational enterprise.
Well, my laugh line is always that I worked for two U.S. presidents, and working with your parents is harder. I didn't know how true it was. But no, I mean, I think part of what attracted me back was everything that was happening in Detroit, to be honest. I mean, I think it was, I mean, I think I talk about this all the time on economic development and how we attract people, but it's the job that brings you here, and it's the community. And it was very much the case for me, right? I mean, I think it's a great place to live and raise kids. And it was a great opportunity for me. But I also think Detroit's really unique. If you're in business, you can also have a big impact in the community if you lean in. And for me, that's been really important. So that was all those things.
You know, Carla, you building a business yourself very successfully, I might add. And now, if I'm correct, you have at least one of your kids that worked with you in the business. How is that being on the top side of that, being able to create something that you can then bring your children into?
It's been interesting. I have 3 children. One of my children works in the business, not at the top levels of the business, because one of the blessings of having your own business is that you can bring your children in. But the bigger blessing is you can facilitate their ability to do whatever they really want to do. And I'm pretty stunned, to be honest, that my kids didn't just want, immediately, I'm going to groom myself to take over your business. My former husband, who's also a great friend, owns his own business as well. So they literally have a choice of 2 businesses. I think that I'll end up in the final analysis, because my kids are grown, but they're still very young, having at least one child who is going to be on the leadership levels of my business. Doesn't even work for me right now, but she has options, and she's ambitious, and she's doing her own thing right now. But again, I'm so aware of the blessing of being able to give my children that option.
Yeah, talking about children, it's interesting because with this next topic, it's often a question that I think I never hear the question being asked of men. which is about work-life balance.
That's right.
Which, you know, when I was thinking last night about questions and what we would talk about, and this, you know, for me personally, even whenever I'm interviewing a female leader, that question often pops to my mind. But it was just yesterday that I said, you know, no one ever asked me that question. So it's a lot of presumptions, I think, happen. But, you know, having said that, I am going to ask you guys a question.
And here, Dennis, I was giving you so much credit.
But, you know, it's you guys are high stakes collectively, you know, thousands and thousands of employees, big responsibilities, boards of directors, community involvement, and family. And that does not include whatever your personal hobbies are or whatever you do to relax yourself. So where do you find that balance? And is it an ongoing balance, or is every day a different struggle with balance?
I'll go first. I have a 3- and 5-year-old, so life's busy, and you know, I will start with this. I think having children has been the best thing for my career professionally, actually, and helping me carve out boundaries. And I think it makes me more effective while I'm at work, but equally has helped show me the time for myself is so important. So that usually looks like 4:45 in the morning until 6:30. And for me, my stress relief valve is working out. So that's my time. I have coffee every morning, I work out, and then when my kids are up, I'm ready for them, have that time, and then go to work. And it just helps me compartmentalize different priorities.
And that's as it should be. I never achieved work-life balance, even to this day. I remember we were planning, we were going through a really busy season, and every meeting I was like, I can't miss the bunny breakfast. You know, I've missed so many things that my kids have to be at the Easter bunny breakfast no matter what. And they're like, we're tired of hearing about it. But that was my way of setting an expectation that this is the one thing, because I've missed volleyball games, I've missed track meets. And my kids, when they were young, internalized the things that I missed. They, you know, kids can guilt the hell out of you. So they could point out every single thing that I missed. So I was always, you know, like this. I never really achieved it. But what that has helped me do is inform the culture of my company so that the people that work for me do not have to choose between having a great career and having time to do the things that they need to and self-care. So I've been able to incorporate it as a norm that if you work with my company, you do not have to sacrifice. You have to be intentional about putting in a good day's work, helping us to do what we need to do, and go home and love and take care of your family, because that's the reason you're doing this. So I require work-life balance for everyone else.
Rachel?
So I think, I mean, really similar to what Carla said, I think being a parent, I'm in the same neighborhood of almost 5- and 7-year-olds, so it's hectic. But I think having kids that age has made me a better leader. Because be intentional with your time. I couldn't care less the hours you're in the office, just get it done. And I don't just say, I mean it sincerely. I'd rather someone just be really productive with their time. And then I think the other thing, one good thing about a family business is it's family oriented in every sense. So, I involve my kids a lot. Actually, it was really cute. My oldest daughter made an appreciation wheel, and on her wheel was Mom, yay, the Tigers, which I don't know where that comes from, because we went to a game last week, but that's like it. But fine, whatever. Her brain, which I thought was awesome. At first, my husband's Brian, so I asked, did she misspell it? No, Mom, I mean my brain. Awesome. And Gardner White. So she's engaged, and I think that's a big plus. And also, I would say, it would make one thing that would make me absolutely nuts is kids that don't understand the value of work. So I think that's really important to show them. And
so, Brittany, the two of them, please. The two of them kind of talked about how being a female, being a woman, has affected their leadership style. Following back up with you, being a female leader, how does being the female in that description affect, do you think, how you lead your organization?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I'd echo what they say. I think it's certainly changed my leadership style before having kids. I won't lie, I was the person that thought being in the office and how many hours you put in defined your success and how effective you were. And I had to quickly learn that you can still be just as good or actually better when you're very smart with your time. And so I would say similarly, I do try to set the example. I think my team all well knows that my time in the evening is for my kids and I can be available, but how we incorporate and meet our priorities, making sure, we are there for the kids' events or speech therapy appointment at 4:30, making it work, and just trying to lead with that example and encourage others to find that balance because you can't do it. And I think it's helpful that I've lived both sides of it. And now I see, really how you can still make it work.
We have to talk politics for a second just because we're in the season. But agnostic to what side of the aisle anyone is on, it's got to be exciting. I mean, it's exciting for me that the state of Michigan has, 3 women in our highest ranked elected positions. And in Detroit, we have an open seat because Mayor Duggan, who I think has done a fabulous job, has decided to run for governor, leaving a vacancy. And 2 of the top contenders for the seat are women, which would be the first time, if one of them were to be successful, that we would have a female leader in Detroit. How much, if at all, because let me just say this, I know as a Black person that I'm immediately intrigued when I see a Black candidate. I obviously am going to dig in to see if that candidate is obviously worthy of the seat, et cetera, but I'm immediately turning my head to that candidate to start. Wondering if it's the same effect as a woman looking at women candidates is kind of part A. Part B of the question is, all of you guys are invested in Detroit one way or the other. What advice would you have, not only to the 2 women running, but all the candidates in terms of what you'd like to see happen in the city going forward?
That's a great question.
Carla, go ahead.
Well, I'll just start just because I like to mix it up as opposed to going 1, 2, 3. And this isn't my panel, but this is fine. But I'm really excited that we have Black women running, and that I'm hoping that the top 2 candidates for after the August primary will be Black women. I actually invited one of the Black women to run for mayor years ago. It must have been at least 10 years ago, because I think women bring things to the table. I think Black people bring things to the table, particularly for a majority Black city, majority minority city, but majority Black city. And I have a sense, a belief that when Black women get into power, when mature, thoughtful Black women get into power, we bring everyone with us. I think that the recognition of whatever, and I don't just mean political power, I mean whenever we get a seat at tables that are making decisions, then we realize what it took us to get to those seats. And we are thinking, who's next? Who needs to be in here with me? Who needs to be in here after me? Who is going to say something different but positive? Who's going to make an impact in this room? And I am so excited and hopeful that we are going to have a Black mayor, which is true for so many progressive cities. I think that's just part of our evolution, and I think it's going to be wonderful, wonderful for the city.
Yeah.
Any advice before we move on to the other 2, the next 2? Any advice that you would have to whomever goes into office?
I always got advice, y'all. But for me, especially leadership in times like this, is courage. Just to be courageous. I often tell people that I'm a hypersensitive introvert, and that means I feel everything in the room. So, but it also means that my natural inclination is to fall back, not to be out in front. But you have to lead from wherever you are. And one of the things I'm most excited about is that there's been so much progress in downtown and midtown. There's so many ecosystem players working that this mayor really is going to have an opportunity to kick it up a notch. My concern is that we are moving into a totally different financial reality. You know, we are doing really well right now, but the money is going to be really, really, really funny. Okay. And we cannot count on the resources that we had before. And I know that this next mayor is going to have to focus so much more on the least of these intentionally, but also bringing money in from outside resources and connecting to resources that are there. There's a lot of doom and gloom right now, but money is available. We just have to position ourselves. We have to make the story. We have to tell the story of Detroit and our communities and how important we are to this country, and make sure we are the place that people want to be, want to invest in, and want to become a part of.
Thank you. Brittany.
Yeah. So, you know, and I kind of link these two questions together. There's no question when you see a female candidate, especially in an executive level position, if that's what we're interviewing for, that it's intriguing. I think women, we obviously have to work harder usually to prove ourselves, especially in corporations where it's typically more male driven, and that's certainly true in healthcare especially. So, you know, for someone to have reached that point, they're a hard worker and they know how to blaze a path to get what they need done. And back to the point about females who are in executive roles or leadership roles and who are also parents, you're then extra strategic in terms of how you go about getting things done and being effective. And so that is intriguing, because that's what I need on my team, are people that are looking at things strategically, how to get things done in an efficient manner, and you know, being bold. I liked your point about being courageous, and I would tie that in for the mayor. You know, all of us are going to be facing challenges ahead of us, but we still have to have a bold vision for what we are trying to achieve. So, you know, no different than at the DMC, we will have changes coming in the next year with federal funding changes, and it can't stop us from having ambitious goals and things that we want to achieve. So I'd say put out really aggressive targets that might not seem achievable, and then challenge those around you to accomplish it. And I think the city will go very far under that, even with the headwinds that we have.
Rachel.
So I think it's similar to what Kelly was saying. I think you know, at every level of office, it's really important to lead and not follow. And in most cases, I mean, following the polls. You know, I'm looking at Carrie. We were at the U.S. Department of Energy together, and nothing would frustrate me more than when you were working with the White House and they deferred a decision to comms. Like, if you defer everything to comms and don't ever make news because you're not ruffling feathers, it means you're probably not achieving anything. And I think that applies to everything. I mean, I think there's so much that needs to happen in the city on education that's going to take hard decisions, on our front. And like, there's just go down the list. And I think, you know, you don't need to be popular. People ultimately will respect and vote for someone who did the hard things. And I think we've had a mayor that's really good at articulating why he's making hard choices. And I think that that's really important to continue. And then you asked a question about women in leadership in this state of Michigan, which I love. And I think, you know, my rap is always, you know, we need to be a little more boastful about all the things Detroit and Michigan have brought to the table. And it's, you know, the best state in the country. I believe it to my core. And at the same time, I had a friend at my house last night who was, you know, also worked with me in DC. And I was talking to him, and I was talking about a candidate running for office. I said, well, what about the women factor? And like, that's still a detriment. So, you know, I'm waiting for the rest of the country to learn from us, because that is a problem.
Dennis, if I might make one more comment, one of the biggest opportunities, you know, I'm going to bring clean energy, and is the fastest growing sector right now is energy. No matter what other business you are in, the fact that this country is going to be electrifying and decarbonization already is, and there are resources available for that. Detroit's labor participation rate has been going between 62 and 64%. We talk about the unemployment rate all the time, but there are more than 30% of Detroiters who are not working and are not looking for jobs. One of the biggest challenges the next mayor is going to have is how do we bring those people into the labor market so they're moving from poverty to stability, to affluence, to generational wealth. And we have to be really intentional of getting people out of their mama's basements, living with their cousins, and bringing them into the workforce by training programs that value them, pay them, and respect them once they are in those jobs. That's going to be a huge opportunity.
Carla, I want to stick with you for a second, but I want to remind the viewing audience and the audience in the room that you have QR codes either on your screen or on your tickets for questions. But Rachel brought up a positive trait being ruffling feathers. And I think that if you all looked up ruffling your feathers in a dictionary, Carla's picture is probably going to be there. But it's seriously, Carla, I've been in the rooms with you where you have been courageous and you do speak up and you speak your mind, notwithstanding the looks and the eye rolls that you may get from, a lot of the white men in the room. I mean, just calling a spade, no pun intended. So have you found over the last several years that there are more people speaking up alongside you, that more people are being courageous as people become women, Black folks become more successful and perhaps more comfortable in their leadership roles and more comfortable in the rooms, that they're speaking up? Or are you still a soul soldier in those rooms?
I would rarely consider myself a soul soldier, except the rooms that you're in, Dennis. You're in some very white, powerful rooms where I am a soul soldier. And it's interesting because the power dynamics. If I walk into a room and Nicole Sherrod-Freeman is in there, certain women are in there, I relax immediately. Camelia Landrum, because I know I ain't gonna have to say it. I'm not going to have to carry it. And it's like, I walk into a room and it's like, do. Okay, white, powerful man, woman, safe person who might be a Black woman, but it does not feel safe enough saying the things that I need to say or the things that need to be said, right? So I'm always aware of who the allies are. I don't judge people who are not safe enough to say what I think needs to be said, because our positions are different. And we have families to feed, right? But I love it when I can kind of sit back, because that allows me to say what I think personally, because I'm not representing Black people, low to moderate income people, and I think we all have those experiences. And some of the rooms are much safer because of the people that who are in it. You're on the Detroit Regional Chamber Board, and they've made a concerted effort to make that room more diverse. Very different from when I first walked into the room. And I credit a lot of people, including you, with that. But it really depends. If we are blessed to be in these rooms, we have an obligation to not just be there and be so happy that we made it into the room, that we just gonna sit here and be good little people, right? No, we have a job and we have a mission. And as an introvert, I sometimes have to take 2 deep breaths. I used to have to make sure my voice wasn't shaking because I am a true introvert, but I don't want to have to deal with myself later for not saying something that could have made a difference.
Rachel, we have a tradition now for the past few years where we come downtown and stay at the Shinola Hotel on Thanksgiving Eve and watch the parade. And go down, and we see the turkey trot at 6:30 in the morning. It seemed like it was a millisecond that it took for you all to say, yes, you will take on the leading sponsorship role.
Oh, I didn't even have to ask, I called.
In the parade. Like, how talk about that, making that decision. Was it even a decision, and the excitement around being involved in that now?
literal, you're right, it wasn't much of a decision, it was a millisecond. I mean, so it goes with my wrap of, this isn't just a parade that's like the best in the state, the best in the Midwest. This is the best in the country. We call it America's Thanksgiving Day Parade. USA Today votes it #1 every single year. And, you know, I think if we're going to be #1, I want to be part of it and scream it from the rooftops. So I think we're signed on through at least 2031, but forever.
And so this year, when you are coming down the parade, you're going to pass a store that you've opened on Woodward Avenue. Talk to us about GW Home.
Oh, I had so much fun with this. Yes, please. So we just launched a new concept, 1201 Woodward, right across from Hudson. But the whole thing is, I think it's a store, I know it's a store, that could only be created in Detroit. So our whole thing was local collaboration. So when you walk in, we worked with a great startup at a new lab called Art Club. So we're the rotating gallery, all local artists. Our goal is to not have as many local artists serving at restaurants, want to give them full-time jobs. Worked with this awesome ceramicist who runs ceramics at CCS, Claire Thibodeau. So everything is hyper local. And I think, you know, that doesn't exist anywhere else. So that was a really, really fun concept.
Nice. Brittany, you know, we were talking about, many of you, I think, or a couple of you brought up the economic challenges that the city and the region are going to face. You are running a multi-hospital system in a significant urban core. Carla just mentioned that there's 30 to 35% of Detroiters that are not working and not looking for work. But when those people come to your hospital, you have an ethical obligation to serve them. Talk about the challenges, particularly before this role. Brittany was the CFO, so very intimately familiar with the books and the P&L of the system. Talk about the challenge and opportunities in dealing with in an environment where a lot of people showing up do not have insurance nor the wherewithal to pay for service.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so, you know, the DMC, and part of this was long before I arrived, but we have a lot of systems and structure in place and people that we employ that help the community get coverage. Because in the current environment, we are fortunate to have Medicaid expansion here. And so really a lot of what we do is try to help our community access resources that are available to them. Now we'll see how that changes, but we'll be just as creative in finding ways to connect back to resources in the future as well. You know, it forces us to be efficient, and because we do care for more under and uninsured patients than any other health system. And so that's one of the things I think we've taken pride in, is trying to create an environment where we can proudly take care of this community despite ability to pay, or despite having all the resources that maybe patients in the suburbs would have. And so we're going to continue to do that. Part of what we've done at the DMC is wanting to make sure that it's easy for the community to choose us, not just that we can take care of them, but that they want to choose us. If they come to our ER, because that is the way that this community accesses care, that you're going to get in faster than any other system in Southeast Michigan. You don't have to go to the suburbs to receive quick and efficient care. And so we're going to continue looking for those ways that we can serve the community in the most appropriate way and being fiscally responsible.
Thank you. Rhonda, where are you ready yet? Rhonda will take a question from the audience.
Yes, it's actually Stephanie White at table number 4.
Ooh.
Oh, you thought I was going to read it. I don't have a mic right now. I don't know if one's coming. So
We can hear you, Stephanie.
Okay.
Good morning.
As great leaders, not male, not female, but as great leaders, what would you like us to know or do?
I'll start. I would like us to be open to collaborating with everyone. We are leaders because people follow us. And I believe that there are so many people, so many great leaders in the audience I would like us to not judge based on whether a leader has been elevated and recognized. I believe I became a leader because people co-signed me as a leader. I was a leader before. I was a leader when I was broke as hell. I was not recognized as a leader. So I want us to recognize all the leaders at every level, no matter how they present, and make the best and highest use of all the resources in the ecosystem without not worrying about who personally profits. Because so many of the solutions, the profit motive is keeping us from doing what we need to do. So I want us to collaborate, innovate, elevate everything that's going on right now and make the most of the moment that we have.
Mm-hmm. I loved what you said. I think that's so important. And for me and for my team, it's one thing I emphasize, that we really need to help cultivate talent around us, recognize talent, challenge others. I would build on that by saying, be curious. I think curiosity has led me to some of the best solutions, asking the questions of those in the room to understand and then to figure out solutions. It helps you understand what drives things and to move things forward.
I think probably finding everyone's secret superpower. So, I'm totally not concerned if, with the job description, does a person fit in the box? Just find what they're really good at and, create a situation in which they can lean in.
And if I may, Dennis, just expand on that. One of the things we're doing is we're reviewing all of our job descriptions. We have job descriptions that say you have to have 7 years. What the hell?
Yeah.
What, is 7 years like a magic number?
Mhm.
There's these standards that we've adopted as businesses. What are the real requirements to do a great job or to be a great leader without looking at the fine print on your JDs?
Thank you. Rhonda, did we get you a microphone?
Yes. I don't know if anyone can hear me, but I talk really loud.
We got you.
I hear an echo. I will have you introduce yourself and ask your question.
Hi, my name is Bianca Pope. Can everybody hear me? Perfect.
Maybe louder.
Okay. Hi, my name is Bianca Pope, and my question is, what's one decision you made early in your leadership journey? Oh, perfect. Here we go. I love that. Hi, my name is Bianca Pope.
There we go.
Part 2, right? So what's one decision you made early in your leadership journey that felt risky at the time, but ultimately shaped the way you lead today?
So one decision.
I know.
Carla.
Well, the rest of her thinking she's
I look
going.
right, and hey, the mission. The biggest decision I ever made early on was to leave the company that I worked for 18 years. I worked 18 years for a company that for 18 years never saw me as the ideal candidate for any position. And I want you guys to hear that. I don't mean that I did not get additional positions, but I was promoted because they didn't know what else to do with me. So they were always trying to find a place that a Black woman could be, not Carla, but a Black woman, in their opinion, could be successful. So leaving that company was the most important decision, and it shapes the way I think today, because it opened me up to saying, I want to create a company that values everyone. I want to create an ecosystem and a world that values people and does not judge us by how we present. The fact that I was in the body of a Black woman as I was trying to do my work had so much more impact on my success opportunities than it should have. And I think that as humans, we make those types of decisions without even knowing it every day about people. Give people opportunities to excel, to rise or to fall based on their performance, not based on who we perceive, what our perceptions are about those people or about how they would perform. Mm-hmm.
I know the question was early in your leadership journey. I wouldn't say that mine came early, but I think it was actually deciding to take this job that I'm in now. As you mentioned, I was the CFO before, and most of my career had been in finance. I didn't actually intentionally start in finance, but I'm a numbers person through and through. I loved being a CFO. And we had a vacancy in the CEO position. I was asked to do it on an interim basis. So that was fine. I didn't mind doing it. But actually making the decision to take this job, it felt very risky. Like, what business do I have running the Detroit Medical Center? And, there's a lot to healthcare system besides finance. And I knew I had always worked to understand healthcare more broadly. I was never, the bean counter in the room or someone that didn't try to understand operations, but there was a lot that I hadn't seen or hadn't run directly. And so as I talked through this in my head on whether or not I should move forward with this position, I committed to myself and to others that I work with that I have to listen, and back to the point I made earlier, really seek to understand. I have to understand what's around me, ask the questions to be sure that I understand the stakeholders in the room who are the experts, because I'm not. And I think that's really helped me in making better decisions for the organization, because it's forced me to really hear the voices of those around me versus assuming I have all the answers.
Rachel.
I would say, so when I moved back to Detroit to join Gardner White, I was in the energy sector before, and it didn't feel that risky to me, but then people said just the dumbest stuff. Like I got all the time, like, well, aren't you going to miss having an impact? Like, what? And you're not making a difference in the world anymore. Like, what? Really? Like we employ 1,000 people. I'm trying to innovate on retail every single day, and there's a ton you can do in the community. But yeah, I'm just, so I think it was, but I got that a lot. So I think I learned just to tune it out, because I felt confident in the decision. But when who you think smart people say this to you, it does force you to second guess those decisions.
Rhonda, before we go back to you, I've got a question from a viewer, Verdell. As a female manager, how do you handle some of the stereotypes that come with the position, with decisions that you make, such as being said that you are weak and trying to be a man, or that there are prejudice against women with some of your decisions?
I'll take it. So one, it's never occurred to me that I'm weak. And yeah, thanks. And two, I think our sector, if I was in energy before, and I would say the same thing, our sector in particular, it is insane that there are not more women in leadership. I mean, the whole industry knows, they talk about the consumer she, because of course women drive most consumption, but in particular in how you decorate your home. And yet it's all men. And I think I've been on this stage telling this story, but I'll never forget, I was at a High Point Market probably almost 15 years ago. And there's exactly what you would think of. This old guy in a schlubby suit looking at a sofa, going to me like, yeah, the women really like this. They were, it's really going to help. Like, when was the last time you knew what did it for a woman, dude? Like, so, I think just lean in. That's great.
Yeah, and I think the fact that question is so interesting, because it's all over the place, that you're weak or trying to be a man. And the weak thing comes out all the time, especially early in your career. But sometimes when women try to overcompensate to show that they're not weak, then it goes all the way over to you're trying to be a man, right? I think you're probably in a pretty toxic environment right now. And I would suggest that you try to help your company improve its culture, so that there's not so much judgment, that there is more focus on, what you all are trying to accomplish. Because even though it sounds like a toxic environment, I think that probably half the women in this room are in environments just like that, where they're trying to figure out how to navigate and how to show up so that we can change people's opinions of who we are. So it's sad. It's just sad.
Brittany?
Yeah, the whole comment about being weak, I certainly don't identify that way in rooms. I think, there obviously are situations that come up where you can tell people are positioning themselves in the room. And if I have the opportunity, I usually try to find something that I can say that just completely catches them off guard in whatever way that I can. And, whether or not it works, I feel good in the moment of doing that. So that's usually how I deal with that. I usually just focus on like what I need to get done, and I don't get caught up in, when people want to act that way. I think it's honestly ridiculous. And again, try to catch them off guard and move forward.
Thank you. Rhonda?
So I have a question as I'm awaiting the next question. But one of the things that you said, Carla, and I would like for everyone to respond as well, but you talked about having that courage and that boldness when you walk into a room, whether there's allies in that room or not. But and you said you're an introvert. So somehow you've turned maybe someone that's more quiet and would prefer not to be bold and courageous, and you found a way to do that. So we have young professionals in this room that may need to have that voice in that room. How do you get it?
How do I get it? So I have one secret. Anytime I go into any room that I'm concerned about, I pray for favor. I pray that even if I make a mistake, even if I fail, even if I don't say the right thing, that people will view me with favor. Because sometimes it's not always about what you say or do. It's how people feel about you. And there are people that want you to succeed. In any room, you can find people who want you to succeed. So I pray for favor. On the other hand, I give grace really easily. I allow people to fail without demonizing them or trying to bury them, right? Again, it really just goes to the culture. If we really want the best for this city, if we want the best for our companies, we have to show up different. Even today, when people tell me that I don't sound nervous, that I sound poised, my stomach is like doing 17 acts of a play, okay? But I have learned to push through. And courage doesn't mean that you're not nervous or anxious. I'm just a highly anxious person, but it means that you figure out most of the time how to do it anyway. But I also have these sayings. I like to quote myself, but I only have one quote. And my quote that I made up is, courage is a renewable resource. Y'all know I'm in renewables and energy efficiency. And so that means that if I don't show up the way I want to, for whatever reason, because we're human, right? Sometimes I've just had enough. Sometimes I just need to go home and get in the fetal position and process everything. But what that means to me is if I don't do my best, I get another chance. It might not be the exact same situation, but God grants me another chance to do it again, and a chance to encourage other people to just keep putting themselves out there against their natural inclinations until you accomplish what you need to accomplish or figure something else out. I got to say one more thing. My mom was like a no nonsense. And I used to say all the time when I was young, because I'm hypersensitive and I wanted to change the world, I used to say, Mom, I wish we weren't so poor. I wish we could go to the fair. I mean, minor things. And my mom had the same answer all the time. Baby, if wishes were horses, beggars could ride. I'm like, I was like, well, damn, is that all I get? Because her solution to everything was to work hard to get what you want. And that's really all I know. But wasn't that harsh?
Thank you, Carla. Rachel, do you want to share just how you find that courage and that boldness? It's not always innate for everyone. So just to help or to give advice on how to maybe sometimes feel like you're taking that risk. You have something on the tip of your tongue that you want to say, but you have that fear of, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Well, I think for the most part, everyone wants to see others succeed. I really believe that. So I think, walk into any room and assume that's the case, and I think you'll find that courage.
Thank you. Brittany?
So for one, I would say, when you're building over time, find the things that you are really comfortable in, right? That you feel comfortable speaking up and, build that up over time. But there's a book that I actually read recently that I think has been very helpful, not just on courage, but just in general. Let Them by Mel Robbins. And I thought it was like such a ridiculous, simple thing when my sister told me about this, and I'm like, okay. But I read it and I'm like, it's actually a very practical application. And so there's things like, you don't need to worry about what others think. Let them have that thought. And that is their thought to have, and you do you, and you'll make a good impact. So
it's actually a good response to the question that we had from our viewer on the air. I want to bring in Mary. If you could please stand and introduce yourself and share your question.
Thank you. Buenos dias. I'm Mary Carmen Munoz. I'm Executive Director of Latin Americans for Social and Economic Development in Southwest Detroit, also known as LACED. Brittany, you and I have had a chance to meet and talk before. With the new changes that the administration is imposing on so many different areas across this country, it is disproportionately affecting Black and Brown families, especially women. How is the DMC going to continue to provide much needed services and in fact expand some of those services now that many of those people that need the medical attention are afraid to go to get the medical attention? They don't have the resources. They're afraid to go out of their homes. How can the DMC address that during these very difficult times? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you, Mary Carmen. That's a really good question. So, and this might sound like too practical of an answer, not like the soft side, but I'll just answer with practicality because I think that that's important. So I think a lot of what you hear right now with health systems as they're commenting on what's happening at the federal level is that healthcare is going to have to retract. We're going to have to cut services. And there's no question, I think there will be some of that. But I look at it a little bit differently at the DMC. Again, putting on my CFO hat, it's a large fixed cost to run the DMC, right? And anyone who works in finance knows the way you hurdle fixed cost is revenue. And so even if it's a lower clip of revenue that helps us do what we do, that's what we're going to have to do. So seeing more patients, improving how efficient we are in delivering care to this community will be our focus. So right now we're not focused and we won't be focused on how we are going to retract and care for less. We're going to be focused on how we expand and care for more patients. And that's really the underlying focus of what we've been doing. Again, I mentioned our ER efficiency and how we've really been focused on that. And I think that's going to become even more important as access to primary care and specialty will more likely be limited in the new environment that we'll be facing. So being able to accept patients and get them in quickly and get them seen so they can get back to their job or to their families will remain a priority. And in terms of expanding services, this isn't, maybe true expansion, but where we are still investing, we're embarking on a multi-phase project right now for women and renovating and making our OB and L&D units more attractive and welcoming for patients. So that'll be a $20 million investment that we're doing for women because we want women to feel like they can deliver in Detroit and they can have the amenities. And we're doing this in the face of the challenges of what we have ahead of us because it's the right thing to do for the community. So we're going to stay focused on that and do a good job.
And that's one thing too. Not at all about healthcare, about which I know zero. But when we were just at Mackinac and Austin Goolsbee was there, chair of the Chicago Fed, and he was doing his thing of like, well, the averages are actually not that bad. Unemployment's not terrible. Inflation's not terrible. And I'm sitting here looking, and conveniently, I was sitting next to Michigan State Treasurer, another Rachel. I'm like, I know it's not true. Because I think the averages hide that there's really two economies happening. And I'm sitting there and I know this is one of those things like I know it's true, I can't show it. But you just look at our sector. Everyone who's declared bankruptcy is people who focus on lower price goods. So everyone's had to pivot up. So, and you look, it's like, unequivocal. That's what's happening. And finally, Rachel Eubanks, the state treasurer, was the first person to show me data that could show there's two economies that are emerging. And then, I said it to I said to some other data guys, like, oh yeah, that's absolutely true. And now what they were saying was it's not just lower income, now even middle income, they're starting to see tightening. All the big indicators don't show it yet. But to the elected officials, aspiring elected officials in the room, I think that is the issue. Because this country has done well with a thriving middle class, and this state in particular. And if we see two economies, that does not bode well. So don't clap. It's not. That's the issue, though.
I have another question And to be inclusive in this predominantly female audience, we're going to ask Jacob to ask his question. If you can introduce yourself and share your question.
Be careful, Jacob.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for taking my question. In about 10 days, my daughter will be here for the summer, and she's 14. I'm running out of ideas. What would you tell your 14-year-old self? Because that's exactly what I'm going to tell her.
Great question.
Now that makes me scared.
14 is a rough age, I can tell you that.
Oh, yeah. 14-year-old girls were just sent here to test you. Okay, just know that, number one. That's their only purpose in life. But what I would tell my 14-year-old girl self, because I was even more hypersensitive and more anxious at 14, would be, it's gonna be okay, relax. And I wish I had felt safe to ask all the questions in my head and to state all the fears I had. Your daughter will not be in a situation where she feels like she's got to solve problems for adults, but I had already taken on that responsibility by the time I was 14. But being with you is going to be amazing. You're going to make her feel safe, loved, and valued in spite of what's going on in her head, her body, and her heart. And I think that's the most important thing you can do. There's not a question she can ask you that is going to knock you off your game. Okay, Dad? Everything she asks you, you're going to be honest and empathetic and loving. And that's really the most that you can do.
Yeah. Just end it there. That's great. I'd say, it might be less about what you tell her and more about how you make her feel about herself. And I think, I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I feel like this is what I'm constantly reading about. Like, how do I make sure that I'm raising a little girl who is confident in herself and sees how amazing of a person that she is? And so I feel like for me, and I think this is what I would have appreciated as a 14-year-old is my mom or my dad helping me get that feeling from inside versus getting the validation externally.
Mm-hmm. I have one more good question. You could also buy her a diamond.
There you go.
And I say that because one of the things I try to make my daughter understand is that she's got internal resources. And I bought her a diamond cross when she was 14. I said, you never have to wait for someone outside of our family to buy you anything. Never depend on a man for your first diamond or your first anything else. Everything you need, you have the resources to make happen. So I'll help you if you want to go.
Maybe she should get a paid internship with all those opportunities you have over there at Walker Miller, because now you got Dad spending thousands of dollars on his daughter. And he already is. I know it. I remember when I was 14 and I wanted everything. My 14th birthday was a disaster because I pushed it a little too far with my dad. He's like, you know what? Party's canceled. All right.
Rhonda, I will say, I remember you when you were 14 too, and you've turned out remarkably.
Thank you. Thank you. On the outside, I was wonderful, but at home, I gave my parents a run for their money. I have to admit. But after that party got canceled, I toned it down a little bit. I was like, okay, you need to know when you go too far. All right. I want to get our next question here. If you could introduce yourself and tell us your question.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Katie Cox, and I have a nonprofit and a consulting firm. I think right now, the stage that I'm in, mentorship is really important for me. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for a mentor. I just want to know, how important is mentorship to you, and how crucial of a role did mentorship play on your way to where you are today?
Yeah, for me, I mean, it was, I think it is what led me to be where I am very early on, whether it was in college even, and having someone who encouraged me to think beyond what I thought my potential was, even to, my internship and having a COO who saw something in me and helped advocate for me, but then taught me the tough lessons. And I think, this wasn't the question, but as individuals look for mentors, I would challenge you not to look for the people who are going to tell you what you want to hear and just pat you on the back to move you along, but the people who give you the hard feedback and challenge you.
I'd say it hasn't stopped being important. I'm still being mentored.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for it. And what Brittany just said, I think is really important. I've had different ones along the way. One of the most fun ones was a great guy named Larry Quilling, unfortunately passed about 5 years ago. And I stayed with him when I was joining the furniture business. He lived in Southern California, and I stayed with him for about a month, and we went to every furniture store in California and then drank martinis at night. It was really it was great. But he had that amazing ability to make criticism go down like sugar. And I mean, that is a skill. But, I go into a store and I hear Larry in my head. I'm looking at a price tag. In the furniture industry, everyone's obsessed with their price tags. What's she going to pay for? You can't see that. I mean, I go into a bathroom, I hear him, but because it's dirty and who would shop here? So, but I think it's really important and continues to be.
Yeah, and I never had a mentor. I call, a lot of people know a woman named Dr. Marlo Rencher, who's probably 15, maybe 20 years younger than me. And I call her my first mentor because she pulled some things out of me for a season. You're lucky if you have a mentor at all. But I think it's so important. I believe that if I'd had a mentor or a series of effective mentors, you all wouldn't know me because I would be rich and retired already. I think it's really valuable. But I do want to, when people are looking for mentors, because people ask me to mentor all the time, I don't have the time or the capacity for individual mentorship. And again, I hope that we'll look at people who are not necessarily the people on stages. Yeah. So much of the valuable information and most of the mentors are not the most visible people They're people that have lived experiences that can pour into you and have the time to pour into you. So don't, just be very careful about who you choose as mentors and for what season their advice is valuable to you. I actually once looked up to someone as a mentor as I was trying to decide, writing my business plan actually for my first business, and worked with them for a few weeks. And at the end of that time, he says, "Hey, babe," like that, "don't quit your day job." So you can have the wrong mentor. So just be very careful.
Thank you. Rhonda, are we done with the audience questions?
That concludes our questions, but I will be pulling some people for our overdrive interviews following the panel, but I know many people have to get to work this morning while I'm just finishing up my day.
So let me say just a couple things, and I am going to ask you guys kind of a closing question that I've kind of taken away from this, a few bullet points I've jotted down. One is that we absolutely have an obligation to speak up. We can't allow those like a Carla who are always speaking up to continue to speak up alone. We have an obligation to join them to the extent we agree with their positions. We owe it to ourselves and to the other people to speak up. Second, the importance when we're in leadership of allowing our people to come to work as their authentic selves, I think is very important. And you mentioned something, Rachel, about focusing on productivity. And I think, Carla, you did too, in terms of the number of hours, in terms of how we are managing, everyone in the workplace, not just men or women, et cetera. And then very interesting, like Carla, I'm about to go back and look at all our job descriptions that are posted, because I do think that we get caught up in saying you have to have this degree or this many years on the job. And these are probably very outdated job descriptions that are probably pre-screening out a number of people who would otherwise be well positioned for the job. But just as we close and we send people about their day and the weekend, if each of you could tell us what was the most significant barrier you faced on your journey to CEO, and how did you overcome that barrier?
That's a good question. I think the hardest, one of the hard things is you have to bring people along with you. And that's something you do every single day. But life's a lot easier when you have everyone executing your mission as opposed to you executing your mission, but it takes a lot of time and intention to do that.
For me, it was actually gaining credibility as an expert in thought leadership in the clean energy industry. The first conference we went to, there were probably 2 Black companies out of about 100. And there were companies that literally laughed out loud, not LOL, but they literally laughed that Walker Miller was there representing the clean energy industry. The barrier is being visible, being excellent, and being consistent, and building. The hardest thing was building credibility as a company, because being out there is one thing, but really performing at a level that builds credibility over time was the hardest thing that we had to do. It's taken a long time, but it's work. And that's why I'm so committed to inviting people into the industry where there's so much work to do and so much opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you. I don't think I said thank you for inviting me, Dennis, Hiram. I love this stage. I haven't been on it in a long time. I love this room. I love the goodwill. I love the diversity of this room. And just thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you. Brittany?
Yeah, for me, I would say on my journey to becoming a CEO, it was well before I became a CEO, but it was making the pivot from an individual contributor and being really good at what I did to being able to being that subject matter expert, but then leading people along with me and getting them to hear my thoughts and see what I was seeing as opportunities and getting them to buy in. That was probably the hardest thing. Hardest point of feedback I ever got was how I wasn't doing that well. And I learned a lot from that. And I think that's what helped get me to where I am today.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here this morning. Once again, this is a phenomenal panel. Hiram and Bob, I think that every year we should do at least one Women to Lead panel, and because there's so many leaders, female leaders in our community, that we don't do it justice with only having 3 participants a year. So maybe that's something we'll look at doing next year. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that the absentee ballots are being mailed out to the city of Detroit this weekend, I think Sunday. And so next week people can start voting. So please participate in the voting process. I think we only had 18 to 20% of registered voters participated last time around, which is embarrassing. So I encourage everyone to get out to vote. Enjoy your weekends. Thank you.
Well, we have had a great discussion here at Pancakes and Politics with the Michigan Chronicle. Great panelists as well as moderator, Tanya Allen, CEO of Forever Fresh. You're a female CEO as well. What were some of your takeaways?
Well, first of all, thank you. I'm Tanya Allen Hill.
Oh,
that's okay.
Forgive me. I do recall that fabulous wedding.
Thank you. Great to be here. There were just so many dynamic women here today, but especially the panelists.
Yeah.
It's very inspiring always to see women CEOs and, women out doing things and helping people.
Yeah. You, in addition to your business with Forever Fresh, have been able to get a footprint inside of Detroit's Metro Airport as one of the few female entrepreneurs that have companies there. How were you able to open that door, and how are you bringing others with you?
Like Carla Walker Miller talked about collaboration. So I'm actually in a joint partnership with Paradise Lagardère. So my partners and I collectively own and operate 16 of the locations there. But as an entrepreneur, I always try to, bring others in. For example, we have a store in the airport, The Economist, and one of the small businesses owns T-shirts. Probably know them, Detroit versus Everybody.
Yes.
And I was able to get them in the airport, and I'm so excited now. They're actually going to be opening their own store.
Wow.
So we really have to be in a position where we're always looking to obviously build our business, but while we're doing that, we do have to focus on building others.
Right. And so if we do have entrepreneurs that are watching right now, because you have been one for decades,
yes,
getting started, sometimes you have that idea, but getting started can be, sometimes you just get in your own way. What advice do you have?
Well, first of all, always believe in yourself.
Right.
I have Forever Fresh disposable undergarments.
Mm-hmm.
And, for years, people thought, what a crazy idea. But they are sold in schools now throughout the country.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what your idea is, never give up on it, and always find someone that can encourage you to take that next step.
And so that means never giving up and keep trying. If the first person says no, you can get a ton of no's. You only need one yes.
But one thing I do want to add too, I think too with entrepreneurs, sometimes we get so caught up in focusing on the business, which is great, that we tend to forget about the philanthropic side of the community. And so I'm very involved in nonprofits, helping kids. I'm with Thaw, First Tee, and I know you have a fabulous nonprofit.
I was going to say, Rhonda Walker Foundation.
Rhonda Walker Foundation that I love and support.
Thank you.
But I think that's so important for the business community, which is why I admire the speakers that were here today.
They are
all of them are very, very involved in the community, in
Mm-hmm.
addition to being great CEOs. So I would encourage all Detroiters or anyone that's listening today to just get involved with your community and stay connected.
That is such great advice. And in fact, being in that philanthropic community, you meet a lot of other people that like to help people, which sometimes, depending on where you are in life, you need that. And you're in a great community to do it. So.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, the young kids, you never know who you're mentoring. I mean, you could be mentoring the next president. You really never know.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that excites me about, being in that philanthropic world. I see these kids, come up with, hopes and dreams and aspirations. And then 10 years, you look around and, oh my God.
Yeah.
How they've grown. So
Exactly.
I think that's really, really important to stay connected to the community.
Thank you, Tanya. It was very great. I appreciate your input. I'll let you get back to networking. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.
Thanks.
Welcome back, everybody, here for Overdrive of Pancakes and Politics with the Michigan Chronicle, celebrating their 20th year of these impactful panel discussions. And in the audience, Randy Barris with Business Leaders for Michigan. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Rhonda, and we are thrilled to be here. This is our 4th year sponsoring Pancakes and Politics, and at Business Leaders for Michigan, it's so great to hear different perspectives from people here in Southeast Michigan. As a statewide business organization, really focused on making Michigan a top 10 state for jobs, talent, and a thriving economy, it's important to hear from different people. And Rachel Stewart's on our board, so we love seeing her here this morning.
And specifically Business Leaders for Michigan, for those that aren't familiar, your real focus is on that top tier leadership.
It is. So our board is made up of the CEOs and top executives of the state's leading companies from all over Michigan, with a great majority here in Southeast Michigan. And we are all about doing what we can to make Michigan better, and that's focused on education, the talent pipeline, attracting and retaining great people here in the state, economic development, and making sure that we get the fundamentals right too.
Is there some leadership development as a component of that as well? I mean, when you're working with these top leaders, just to who's going to be next in the pipeline to take these leadership positions?
One of the things we work on certainly with our leaders is, what their passions are in terms of making Michigan better, and then how are we attracting talent to fill their talent pipelines internally too.
And so making us a top 10 state in the country, where are we now, and what is the focus to get us there?
So Michigan is ranked 27th now, and we've come a long way. When Business Leaders for Michigan was formed back in 2009, we were 49th, 50th in almost every category. We were really hit hard from the Great Recession, and over the last 15 years, Michigan has made incredible progress. And so our focus now is on really building on that momentum, protecting all the progress that we've made, making sure we don't go backward, and then focusing on what will drive us forward. So that's how do we totally transform our K-12 education system. We can't teach kids the way we were taught them 50 years ago. The world is changing so rapidly, and we have to make sure we're giving them the skills to succeed in life. And then how are we making sure that university education, the career development is preparing people for the jobs that our companies in Michigan need? And how are we attracting great young professionals to this amazing state and making it a great place for them to live and work and raise their families?
How is this measured? How do you measure a state to say you're a top 10 state versus in the top 27?
So we benchmark against other states across the country. We look at a number of different factors, including median household income, the labor force participation rate, the educational attainment rate, and GDP and other factors, and look at how Michigan compares. So some of the top states are Colorado, Utah, Texas, and we look and see what are they doing right and what can we learn from them. We've got to do things the Michigan way. We're not like any other state. We're very purple, which is great. And one of the things we have to look at is, okay, because we're so purple and politics changes every time there's an election, we need strategies that will last beyond a political term of office. We need everybody driving in the right direction. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle we're on. We pride ourselves on being nonpartisan, and we really are looking at ways that everyone can come together to make things better for all of us.
How is the recruitment to be a part of Business Leaders for Michigan? Is it your outreach, or they come to you, and what is the benefit of being a part of it?
It's a little bit of both. We have about 100 members. We keep it tight. We're not looking to
Very exclusive.
It is an exclusive club, and there's a reason for that. These are leaders who have great influence and really know Michigan. And it's an organization that our leaders are really proud to be a part of. And so we look at, what companies are out there that are growing quickly, what companies employ a lot of Michiganders, have great revenue, and are committed to Michigan and Michiganders.
Oh, well, thanks so much for stopping
Thanks,
over. I
Ron.
know
It's
I'm
so
sure
great
you
to
want to
be
get out
here.
here and
continue to network with all of the great business leaders.
We
that
love
are
this
here.
event. It's one of my favorite things to come to every month.
Well, thanks so much for being here and for your sponsorship to make sure that we can even host these events. So we
Thank you.
appreciate that, Randy.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Enjoy the great Michigan weekend.
We're going to be talking with the mayor of one of our cities here in the metro area when we come back. Oh, welcome back, everybody. We're at Overdrive at Pancakes and Politics, talking to some of our guests who are here, including an elected official from the city of Highland Park. We have Glenda McDonald, the mayor
Yes.
of Highland Park. Good to see you.
Good to see you, and thank you for having me.
You know, Highland Park is this small city within the city of Detroit. A lot of times people that are not, necessarily from the area, maybe from the suburbs, they pass right through it and don't even know
Exactly.
that they're passing through this unique community with so much history.
Definitely a lot of history. Some of our housing right now is like 120 years old. We have the history of Henry Ford and the Ford plant and the Model T. We have the McGregors that was there for the McGregor Library, which we hoping to get reopened as soon as we can. I have someone there right now that's 103. Who's been there a lot of years. So Highland Park is definitely a gem within the city. We call ourselves the capital of Detroit.
I love that.
So I'm excited about it. All the new things going on, and I'm excited about moving our city forward.
Well, I have a history in Highland Park. My grandparents lived there. They're no longer living, but they lived on Elmhurst, and I spent summers and holidays there. It is a special community, but it has had its challenges. Seeing some of the big businesses and the plans move out really has been devastating over the decades. But now there's this resurgence for Highland Park. So tell me what you're most excited about.
Well, I'm most excited to see people moving back in. We have new citizens. We're having houses renovated. And also we have new projects going that's going to continue to bring citizens. And I'm really excited about a new partnership with our school system, which is now ready to start moving forward to building. It's so many things that I could talk about.
Yeah.
But yes, and one of the good things is that now we're about to relight Highland Park.
Yes.
And so, the history of that. We're working with different nonprofits as well as DTE to try to bring a hybrid project to the city. So it is definitely an exciting time to be a Highland Parker. And for those who don't know what that means, they say once a Parker, always a Parker. So your grandparents was a Parker. That makes you an honorary. Yes, you're a Parker.
You've been there for decades. You said over 50 years, and we covered extensively with the lighting issues there because that costs a lot of money to help to restore. So it's great to see what's just happened within the past year that's really bridging the gap there.
Yes.
There are beautiful homes in Highland Park, as you said, historic, beautiful homes, but it does take money to restore them.
Yes, it does.
But you mentioned that you really are seeing, what do you think is luring people into Highland Park now?
Well, I think the connection to Detroit, and you know, the proximity of downtown Detroit, the proximity of the freeways, the expressways that are surround us. I always say that Highland Park is the city that leads to everywhere, because it's only 5 minutes between each expressway that you can jump on. Downtown is only 5 miles away. Woodward Avenue goes straight from downtown to Pontiac. I mean, why would you want to be here?
You're so right. Lodge, I-75, you're close to, was the border McNichols then? Like if you're on Woodward or Hamilton?
You have McNichols to the north of us, and then you have Webb to the south of us on Woodward. You have 75 to the east of us, the Lodge to the west of us. You also have 696 and 94.
You truly are the hub.
We're right there. It's an important place. It's an important piece of history, and people need to find out what we're doing.
I agree. Well, Mayor McDonald, thank you for stopping by. It's so great to meet you for the